How can we help each other be the best that we can on the floor? Sometimes that's engaging a little bit more off the floor. It's certainly getting to know one another and being there for one another and pouring into one another. And so I think, just having some genuine conversation is helpful.
You said it was coach created and then player led in some ways. How would you describe how it came to be a moderator?
Yeah, I think just
because they playing,
coach led in terms of just asking some questions. And look, anything that we do, we want this to be a player led team. We want
Indiana Fever. Head coach Stella White held a press conference that drew sharp attention for the way she addressed her team's recent struggles, with critics pointing to a pattern of deflecting blame rather than owning the problems directly. White confirmed that the team had held a 2-hour meeting, describing it as a coach-initiated but player-led session, focused on open conversation. She framed it as a collaborative effort, a chance for players to name what they are dealing with, identify solutions, and support one another both on and off the floor. The goal, in her words, was to build genuine connection and empower players to have difficult conversations without needing everything filtered through the coaching staff. On the question of why no film was shown during the session, White explained that certain moments call for flushing a game entirely, rather than picking it apart.
And look, anything that we do, we want this to be a player-led team. We want them to be empowered to take ownership, be empowered to have hard conversations, be empowered to uplift one another, be empowered to give up self for team, to put the we over me, and as some of the older ones in this group know, oftentimes with young people you don't really know how to articulate some of the things that are happening, and so just facilitating in that way.
She also said there was no film involved in that. How, as a coach over the years, have you learned when
the reasoning was that breaking down execution in detail would not have helped the team move forward after a difficult stretch. It was a judgment call based on where the group's mental state was at the time. The press conference took a pointed turn when a reporter brought up comments from player Sophie, who had indicated the team was only operating with one defensive scheme. White's response was that the decision to narrow the defensive playbook was intentional. When execution is inconsistent across the board, the staff preferred to simplify and build confidence on one scheme before expanding. She acknowledged that the roster includes many new players arriving from different systems, and that connecting all of that to a unified approach takes time.
And the details come from the film, and that's what will teach your team versus just talking.
Yeah, some of it's feel, and just a sense of like where we are and gut instinct, and some of it's sometimes there are games where you just need to flush. I mean, I think you see, especially in every pro sports league, there are a handful of games every year that it's like, okay, we just need to flush that one and move on. And sometimes you have those days, and I just felt like after this trip, and particularly after that game,
receive membership.
The moment that drew the most criticism came when White was asked about the team's road struggles. She pointed to travel fatigue and the challenges of playing multiple away games consecutively as contributing factors. For observers, attributing losses to being on the road rather than to tactical or preparation failures read as an unwillingness to take direct responsibility, particularly in the context of a team that had already been widely criticized for its defensive limitations. White also addressed the broader defensive issues, arguing that what looks like lack of effort is often indecision.
Membership. Right on, guys.
The details of the X's and O's weren't going to help us move forward in the way that we needed to.
Kelsey mentioned that your culture has kind of been tested, but it's been built already over the last couple of years. How valuable do you think it is to kind of have to put it in practice? Obviously, we want to be playing better basketball, but to know that, okay, when things get a little tough, we can live with each other.
It's huge. It's huge. And that's a tribute to these women. I mean, it really is. And, I think a year ago, They really got a taste and an understanding of how important the culture and the connectedness is.
She broke the problem down into 3 areas: poor habits carried over from previous teams, adjustment to a new system, and positioning. Her view was that once players clean up those foundations, awareness and anticipation follow naturally. The issue, in her telling, is a connectivity problem that builds over time, not something that resolves itself in 8 games. The most damaging outside contribution to the conversation came from former Connecticut Sun forward Alyssa Thomas.
Taste and an understanding of how important the culture and the connectedness is. There's going to be different types of adversity for our team. They're going to have different types of adversity in life. We all do. And being able to hit it head on, being able to, identify it, being able to help one another through it, and embrace it, I think is big. Oftentimes, things aren't the way that we want them to be, but I think in hindsight, when you look back in life, certainly, sometimes it's where you need it to be, right, to learn lessons. And
in comments that circulated widely, Thomas noted that facing a Stephanie White-coached team carries a significant tactical. Her former players already know everything. White runs on both ends of the floor. Thomas stated plainly that after 2 years under White, the scheme holds no surprises. That observation fed directly into a wider criticism of White's approach with Indiana. The argument being made is that she imported the Connecticut Sun offensive system wholesale and has been trying to run it through Alia Boston as the hub, the same role Alyssa Thomas played in Connecticut.
Right, to learn lessons. And, it's not going to go away, but right. I think we have a group who understands that we're better together, who understands that it's important to help each other navigate this, and to pour into each other.
Sophie talked about only having one defensive scheme and that you guys were able to execute.
Look, somebody asked her. Yes. Hey, look, somebody asked her. Look, Sophie is supposed they only running one defensive scheme.
The problem, critics say, is that the Fever's roster was not built for that system, and Caitlin Clark in particular plays a style of basketball that does not fit within it. Rather than adapting the scheme to the personnel, the coaching staff has been attempting to reshape the personnel to fit the scheme, with the Fever heading into a matchup against the Atlanta Dream, who entered sitting at 5-2 after beating Portland by 20 points. The pressure on the coaching staff to show tactical flexibility was increasing. The Dream represented exactly the kind of organized, naive, well-prepared opponent that would expose a team running a predictable single-scheme defensive structure with no adjustments available.
Yes. Hey, look, somebody asked her. Look, Sophie is supposed they only running one defensive scheme. One defensive scheme. Telling it all. Sophie telling it all. Ask her about that. I want to see what she got to say.
Teams are able to kind of pick that apart. Just how do you as a coaching staff get it so you're able to fully install more defensive schemes to be able to do it?
Yeah, I think we had an opportunity based on matchup to really try to hone in on one. When
a fake Twitter account operating under the name Fever Updates recently put out a fabricated report claiming Stephanie White had been fired as Indiana Fever head coach, with Jan Jensen named as her replacement. The post spread quickly before being community noted and debunked. Among those who shared it was Skip Bayless, a move that drew widespread attention given his long career as one of the more respected sports journalists in the country. A journalist whose early work covering the Dallas Cowboys and San Francisco 49ers teams of the 1990s Super Bowl era gave him genuine insider credibility. long before he became a polarizing television personality. The same fake account had previously circulated a false claim that a Sparks-Fever game drew 2 million viewers, a figure that was equally unsupported.
When you're not executing a lot of things really well, you want to scale back and try to execute one or two really well and sort of get a mindset and get some confidence. But then you got to be able to expand, and I think part of that is challenging them to be able to do that and do that consistently. I think part of that's ownership. Of our players to be able to do it. Again, we have a lot of new players who are playing, who have been in different kinds of systems and who've been asked to do different things. And we got to connect, all of that to what we're trying to do.
Multiple reporters with direct access to the franchise quickly confirmed the firing report had no validity. 2 journalists independently stated they had checked with the team and found zero basis for the claim. Stephanie White remains the Fever's head coach. The incident arrived in the middle of a broader conversation about White's relationship with Caitlin Clark.
Bright as hell. It takes a while this early in the morning for it to acclimate because there's no sunshine coming in. Anyway, this same Twitter account came out a couple weeks ago. I shot down a story on X that the Sparks Fever game got 2 million views. It was a lie. It was a total lie. All right? And I don't even know if that game, if the ratings ever even came out for it. I can tell you right now.
Cheryl Miller, appearing alongside Sue Bird on a broadcast segment, weighed in on the now widely viewed sideline exchange between White and Clark during a recent game. Miller's read was that frustration had spilled past the point of being contained internally, and that when tension becomes disruptive to the entire bench unit, someone in the coaching staff has to step in and restore order. She noted that she believed she could lip-read White, saying defense during the exchange, and pointed to Clark's foul trouble as a contributing factor to the tension. Miller also referenced her own experiences with different coaches throughout her playing career, framing the exchange as a natural byproduct of player-coach relationships that are still finding their boundaries.
Game, if the ratings ever even came out for it, I can tell you right now, there was no 2 million views. It's a little weird because USA Network and Ion are not releasing all of their ratings, and Ion was putting all their ratings out. That tells you the ratings are down. That's a side tangent. Nonetheless, Skip Bayless got by this fake account, right? And everybody started like, oh my God, Skip Bayless. Don't get me wrong, guys. I understand a lot of you are.
That framing did not land well across large portions of the fan base, many of whom felt Miller was attributing blame to Clark, rather than examining the coaching decisions that created the circumstances in the first place. Fan commentary highlighted that Clark's demeanor in that game had been relatively composed, that other players with foul trouble received no comparable scrutiny, and that the narrative was shifting attention away from the tactical issues White had overseen. Question hanging over the franchise is how much longer the current arrangement holds together. Indiana started the season 4-2 before dropping 2 straight, including a 16-point loss.
He started like, oh my God, Skip Bayless. Don't get me wrong, guys. I understand a lot of you are not old enough to remember Skip as a journalist in San Francisco, in Dallas, the Dallas Morning News. I mean, Skip, if there was a Mount Rushmore of sports journalists, Skip Bayless would be on it. Let's not get confused. I know he's turned into sort of a cartoon character now. I get it. There was a time, man, Skip Bayless, you want to talk about an insider, Skip.
If that trajectory continues, 2 wins in the next 5, or failing to go better than 5-5 over a 10-game stretch, the argument for a change becomes increasingly difficult to dismiss. There is a recognized threshold in professional sports at which a coach's voice stops registering with players. It does not announce itself loudly. The locker room simply goes quiet. Effort becomes inconsistent, and the energy that once connected coaching input to player execution disappears.
Insider, Skip knew the Dallas Cowboys and 49ers Super Bowl teams, he covered them directly, tied to them. There was a reason why he got that high-profile ESPN First Take gig back in the day. People forget he started First Take with Woody Page, not with Stephen A. Smith. And he grew it into a juggernaut. But
when that happens, teams tend to act. And he
grew it into a juggernaut. But Skip is gotten older. He's got longer in the tooth. And evidently Skip does not know, hey, you got to do a little digging online now, Skip. Because these parody accounts will nail you. And they nailed him. No surprise, Stephanie White reportedly out after repeated in-game clashes with Caitlin Clark. Not saying White was wrong, but you can't show up. Not saying White was wrong, but you can't show up the face of the league on camera. Caitlin obviously wants a favorite of hers from Iowa, Jan Jansen, but no way Jansen can coach both. So there you go. I mean, that's fake news. You can see it's been community noted. Everybody and their mama has shot it down. This is the troll account. Here's Jan Jensen. Write it down. This is the troll account. Here's Jan Jensen right there. Mick Talks Hoops. This is literally a troll fake news page. Chloe Peterson, for those that have seen Skip Bayless's tweet about reports of Stephanie White being let go, I'm told there's absolutely no validity to it. Stephanie White is still the coach, much to the chagrin of all of us. Alexa Philippou, this is completely untrue. That's straight from the team. Alexa Philippou, this is completely untrue. That's straight from the team. I will tell you what's hilarious. The media running to, nothing to see here. Nothing to see here. Holy moly. Our pride and joy. Stephanie White is still with the hallelujah. 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 Bethany White. She is still employed by the Fever. By the media.